Hi, I'm Ed Parcaut, your host of Inner Edison. Today I'm here with Bonnie Hewitt. How you doing, Bonnie?
I'm great, thank you. How are you?
I'm doing wonderful. We had some rain over the weekend. It's got all the only problem is most of the time that means allergies go down, but for some reason today my eyes are killing me. It must have came back somehow. But anyway, I'll stop complaining.
Yeah, we've had an interesting couple of weeks here too.
Where are
Um,
you out of?
I'm in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania.
Hmm.
So cold, warm, cold, warm.
My
Um,
wife was born in Warren.
oh, okay, that's not too far from here.
Yeah, I don't know
I
how far each one is. Yes.
think, yeah, I think that's out towards Moon, but I could be
Yeah.
wrong.
Huge smelting area. So when all that went away, the town pretty much, died. And, it's sad what has happened in those industries, but we're not here about those industries. We're here about you.
Yeah, I actually grew up in the Steel Valley, so I know exactly what you're talking about.
Yeah.
So,
So for most of my listeners, they're not going to know who you are. You want to tell a little bit of your story?
sure, where do you want me to start?
I don't know. Who is Bonnie Hewitt? So you grew up in Pennsylvania,
Yeah, I
right?
grew up in, I guess it's considered a suburb of south of Pittsburgh in Pennsylvania, a steel town, like I just mentioned, that also went to crud. Somewhere when I was in high school, it started really going downhill. But fortunately, I moved myself and my family out of there. I, I don't know. There's not a whole lot about my childhood to tell because I don't remember a lot of it. But I had my first kiddo when I was 21, and he just turned 21, so that gives you some frame of reference. um, and
We're not gonna do an addition today to figure out your age. All right, so don't worry about it.
okay, and we moved around quite a lot, and I went to business school when he was little. I had my daughter right before I started business school, so I had two little ones. And graduated 2005, worked in the field for several years, and then got really sick in 2011. I don't know if it's contracted, if there's a correct word, but a rare disease called Guillain-Barré syndrome.
Mhm.
That you've heard of it? Most
Oh
people.
yeah, yeah. My wife's a nurse at Kaiser.
Okay.
I was a corpsman in the Navy background, so I've been in medical pretty much. And even though I'm not in that field anymore, I do understand all that. So I know about Guillain-Barré. Yeah.
Okay, so you're one of the first people I think has ever actually heard of it. So it left me paralyzed almost immediately. Felt like I had a stroke, and I spent almost 3 weeks in the hospital learning how to eat and walk and type and talk all over again, basically kind of retraining my body. And the only way I can really describe it to people, besides it's kind of felt like having what has been defined as a stroke. I've never had a stroke, but the way people talk about it. Um, and I really, in hindsight, once I got through kind of like the denial phase and the angry phases, I really realized that it was like my body kind of just shut me off like a surge protector. So at the time, I was a single mom of my two older kids. My husband and I had split up several years prior to that, and then we ended up reconciling after I got sick. But it really was a protection mechanism, I feel like, because I was pushing it and pushing it and pushing it. So I was raising my kids. I ended up working from home. My oldest is on the spectrum, so I was trying to manage him and his mental health needs and work from home as an accountant and take care of my daughter on summer break. So it was quite a lot, and I wasn't really taking care of myself. In fact, I wasn't taking care of myself, to be honest. Pumping lots of caffeine, not eating properly, not exercising, and very, very high stress environment. And I feel like that my body was kind of like, if we don't stop you, you're not going to stop yourself. And so you're not paying attention to the small signals we're giving you. And boom, that's kind of what happened. Now it's easy to say now. In the beginning, I was definitely in a completely different mindset for a long time. So that was kind of I say the first beginning of my healing journey, um, where I had a lot of work to do. I spent a good first 5 years trying to go back to my old life, which is what my body was trying to kind of protect me from. I had another child in 2013, so about a year and a half after I got sick. Very shortly after my husband and I reconciled, we got pregnant. And then had another child in 2016 after some failed medical stuff. It was a very, very big surprise. And it wasn't until having my fourth child and in 2017, and I wasn't getting better, where I sort of kind of started to make these shifts in my head and had to kind of go a different direction. Like I said, I spent a lot of time in denial, a lot of time trying to go back to my old life, and I finally realized that that's not where I was supposed to be. So that's.
Sorry, I turned myself off further. So that way there's no extra noise. So after that, so one of my wife's friends, I met her 3 months ago, same thing. She had Guillain-Barré in the same situation where, relearning that all over again and everything that you have to do. So it's really hard. So, I mean, you were talking about, you probably had the same stages of death dealing with that, with anger, all those 5 stages, right? I mean,
I think for me, yeah, stages of grief for sure.
Yeah.
And it's the death of your old personality. I've described it that way to other people. I'm glad you get it, because some people, they're not, it's too much of it seems too dramatic of a comparison if people don't kind of get it. But that's really what it is. It was the death of the old me, basically. And there was a lot of other things that kind of happened in between that and recovering from that. And after I had my third child, I was diagnosed with RA. I had whooping cough. I had a couple of other things. Yeah, it was pretty interesting.
I'm just like, what else could they pile on? That's the smirk on my face. Is like, what more can they keep adding?
Yeah, well, initially they were like, we don't know what's wrong with you, because one doctor, a neurologist, said there's no way you could have had Guillain-Barré because you shouldn't be able to do XYZ right now. So they kind of left that behind and started looking for other things. And I had one doctor said, rest, do as much rest as possible. So I was sleeping literally 16 hours a day, except for while my kids were at home, and spent 6 months kind of laying on my butt doing nothing. And then I started fighting back, because they're like, you're never going to get better. And it's like, okay, that can't be the case. But then it kept feeling like I was really never going to get better. So I kind of started to believe that, I was never going to get better. And then it was, like I said, bam, 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 was several more diagnoses they piled on after the fact. But you're right. It's a death and it's a rebirth. And sometimes like the rebirth is really, really messy. Like I went through a lot more quote unquote negative, because I wasn't seeing lessons or light or love in any of it at the time, before I got to a point where I was kind of able to start reframing things and use it as a positive. For example, 2017, like I said, was kind of a turning point for me. And I had mental illness that preceded my physical illness way before, like since childhood. And in 2017, after talking to my doctor and complaining about the same symptoms for several months and finding out one of the medications I've been taking for 15 years could have been causing all my problems, I was like, I'm done. I quit all my meds, 12 plus meds in a matter of a couple of months. And that was probably one of the best things for my health that I've ever done.
So after that, so when I've read your little bio and you started some things here. Sorry, I had an assistant come in and drop off some eye drops for me.
That's okay. Is the fan causing background?
No.
Okay.
No. I heard the cars going by.
Yeah, we're on a main road.
That's okay. It's real life. We're not 100% in the studio. Only one of us is. Yeah. So, I read so after all of this, how did one of the things about Inner Edison is about, this isn't really your failure, but they could be looked that way. Some of our greatest accomplishments come out of our failures, or in your case, could be a failure, could be the sickness and stuff. So I know your story to there. What was your rebirth out of that, and what did you do from there?
So in 2016, when I was pregnant with my fourth, we were broke. Like, there's no nice way around it. I'd faced foreclosure a couple of times. I wasn't working. I was disabled, wasn't able to work. And so I was looking for a way to kind of make money. And that's when I kind of happened and started vinyl cutting. Some people are familiar with like a silhouette machine, Cameo, Cricut is a lot of the home machines people use, just to find a way to make a few extra bucks to kind of supplement what my husband was doing. And very quickly fell in love and in hate with the process because I was still very much dealing with a lack of control of my fingers and my hands between the arthritis and the residual from the Guillain-Barré. And then very quickly shifted into what's called HTV vinyl. So HTV allows you to move things around. It doesn't stick immediately. It's primarily used for clothing and apparel, and kind of reignited the passion for my creativity that I had when I was a kid. So I started making apparel, and it caught on pretty quickly. It's also a very saturated market, so you have to find kind of like where you fit in. And I did that for like 3 years. So this is what, 2021. I've been doing it since then. But I kept kind of burning out and what I didn't realize with the hustle culture, as real as it is, and people that I was listening to, I didn't really have a good reason for what I was doing other than making money. Like I wasn't really helping anybody. I wasn't really doing anything of significance. And it was when I finally realized that that was the key, I kind of started shifting into, I started something called the Unbreakable campaign that was meant, and it's on my shirt, that was meant to help people who had been through trauma and kind of chronic illness kind of push forward and find hope. And then I met David Meltzer in 2019. And it was funny because I initially contacted him to see if he could help me with my campaign. Like I didn't know what I was doing. I didn't know how to find an audience. I didn't know how to kind of get the word out. And I was looking for help with that. And I ended up working with him as like, he mentors me. And I remember our very first meeting, I was talking to him, I was like, I've got this business I'm trying to get off the ground. And, told him a little bit about my health and the burnout and all of these different things I've been dealing with. And he flat out told me, like, you're not going to do anything with your business until you get your health situated. And I was like, that wasn't the advice I was looking for, but it was the advice that I needed. Right.
Right.
And there was some other medical stuff, like I said, in between there. When I met him, I had just come out of one of the sickest phases that I have had since I've gotten sick. I had taken something called Humira, hoping that I was going to miraculously feel healed from the RA, and was healing from getting off of the Humira. So I was trying to get the Humira out of my system. And I felt like I was ready, but something in him knew that I wasn't quite ready to do what I was saying that I wanted to do. And that was when I said, like, my first part of my healing journey, and there was a second part in 2017, but the real healing kind of inside, the inner healing really began when I started working with him, really facing all of the stuff that I've had kind of not been dealing with up until that point. I started addressing, and the more I kind of talked to him, the more stuff was coming up for me to address. And it was like kind of a lot of back and forth of, oh, I feel great. Okay, now I feel like crap. No, I feel great. And it was like, it was a very interesting first few months with him. But to further answer your question, it was being in his private group, and then quarantine, COVID happened to all of us, right? And I, at that point, was making custom, I call it logo gear, so promotional wear, basically for small businesses and companies, organizations. So that like ceased to exist. Like there was no business for somebody, especially as small as I was, and the companies that I knew of weren't operating at that capacity. And I think like 2 weeks into our quarantine, I had a couple of people come and ask me to make custom masks. And I was like, no, I don't sew. I have no idea how to sew. I have no interest in doing this. And then a third person asked me, and I was like, okay, I believe in the law of three. I at least need to try to attempt to do this. Like there's obviously people who want these, so let me see what I can do. And I had a 60-year-old vintage sewing machine in the garage, and never touched. I brought it out. We're trying to get it to work. That was broken. I ended up borrowing another machine, which also was broken, but worked enough for me to learn the basics of sewing. And a couple weeks later, I opened up my Etsy shop, selling masks. And my initial idea was to sell custom logo masks to people and companies that were still operating in order to earn enough money to then donate masks to other people who are high risk like myself. And it was great. Like it worked out really well. It was kind of slow going as a new let's say business owner on Etsy. But in the downtime, I got so excited about working with the sewing machine that I just kept going. So I started making projects up, like I was making pillows and skirts and all of these other different things. But the most interesting part, I think, about it was the fact that I must have started at probably the absolute worst time possible for somebody who's trying to learn, because you couldn't get supplies without paying astronomical prices. So, like, I tell people, like, a foot of elastic, not normally costs like 10 cents, was like $4 a foot. And I'm like, how? I'm just trying to learn, right, how to do this. I don't want to spend, well, I couldn't even spend thousands of dollars to get materials. So I was talking to my mom, and she went and talked to her older friends who were no longer sewing for various reasons. And I started buying up all of their vintage materials, their, fabrics and elastic and and I instantly like fell in love. I was like, this is the most amazing thing ever, is I'm trying to do something good. And on top of that, I get to do something else good, because these things are sitting in people's basements, most likely going to get thrown to the dump if somebody doesn't use them. So they're never going to get used. And I'm not buying new materials. So I get to kind of reuse the vintage fabrics to make something new. And a couple months into that, it was like 12 o'clock at night, and I'm sitting at my desk and working on something. And I was like, I wonder if I could build a business upcycling, like taking old things and making them into new things. And I remember talking to David a couple of days later. I was like, do you think this is possible? Like, could I scale something like this? And he said, absolutely. So that's kind of where that part of the journey started to take off. And I just kind of ran with it. Like, I really did just start making whatever I could from whatever I could find that wasn't brand new. So that kind of leads into you were saying about the bio, and David, and 2-minute drill, which was a little bit further down the road.
What's a 2-minute drill?
Oh, I didn't know. Okay, so that was the TV show that I was on.
Okay.
So David,
not all my listeners are going to know everything that I know, so that's why I'm asking these questions.
No, that's fine, totally fine. So that was in August when I talked to him about that, and I kind of was stumbling around for a few months. I'm like, I really don't know how to build a business, especially being in quarantine, and I can't hire employees. I can't be around people. I wasn't going out in public. I've been home for a year straight now. And so I kind of was stuck. And in the meantime, David Meltzer was running these 2-minute drill pitch competitions. So basically they pitched their ideas to him, and he was airing this like on YouTube, on Instagram. And I'm not sure if there was any prizes or anything at that time, but it was basically the chance to get on publicly and talk about your business idea. And they decided to take it to global television. And I'm not sure when they decided, but it was somewhere in the beginning of November. We were talking about it in the private group, and I kept kind of hinting at, like, it was something I thought I really wanted to do, but I wasn't sure. And a lot of imposter syndrome was setting in, because I'm listening to all of these people pitch, and I'm like, I don't have those sales figures. I don't have that knowledge. I don't know how to make that. Like, I've never even heard of what you're talking about. Like, what is a VC? Like, what does he do? And so it was like almost like a half-assed attempt to kind of get information, but I wasn't seriously really ever considering doing it. And I remember it was like mid to late November, and we're in a private coaching session, and a group coaching session, and he's talking about the pitch, and he's like, anybody who hasn't signed up, sign up and get your application. And he says, that means you, Bonnie, like calls me out in front of the entire group. And I'm like, crap, now I really have to do this, because I don't want to let him down. And I still waited like 3 more days before I applied. Never ever seriously thinking that this was something that I was going to end up doing. Like, I didn't think I was even going to get picked, and I was going to be off the hook, right? So they picked me, and I was running around the house screaming, like texting everybody, explaining, like you said, people didn't know what I was talking about. I'm like, it's this business thing, and I don't know how to explain it to you, but I'm going to be on TV. I'm like, that's the important part. I was super psyched about it. And then I had to write the pitch, and that was a very intense couple of weeks for me, because again, imposter syndrome kept setting in. I'm like, I didn't know what to write about. but I wrote and I did the best and I practiced. I can't tell you how many times, but I have like 400 recordings of me practicing this on my phone to get it to the 2 minutes, because you only have 2 minutes. That's it. They cut you off. And the day came and our power went out at like 9 o'clock in the morning. Yeah. So we didn't have any power for several hours, and I'm supposed to go on at 12:45, like log in, and everything's done virtually. And we didn't have any internet. Once the power comes on, we still don't have any internet. I'm thinking it just needs a reboot. Nope, no internet. About 5 minutes before I'm supposed to go on, our internet kicks back on. I'm like, meanwhile, I could have just been like, the hell with this, because like everything was like, no, 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 you're not supposed to be doing this. And I'm like, I'm just gonna get a shower. I'm gonna get ready. I'm gonna do what I can and figure things out as I go. And asking my son, like, can you fix my computer? I don't know what's wrong. Just fix it. I need to go do this. And the whole thing was very surreal, and it was exciting, and it was scary, and it was just phenomenal. And I remember logging in, and it's a lot of standing around staring at a blank screen. There's like 3.5 hours, I think, was because they record the entire show. And you have to wait for your turn and whatnot. And apparently when they were recording my pitch, my video was all choppy and pixelated, so they couldn't really see me. But I didn't know this. On my end, everything looked great. Like I could see David, and I'm pitching my heart out. And the guy comes on, and I'm done. And I'm like relieved that I'm done, right? And the producer comes back on, and he goes, "We need to re-record your pitch." I'm like, you gotta be kidding me. I'm like, I got all the way done. I thought I was done. I'm like, okay. So I re-recorded like 3 more times, and they weren't getting it. And I'm like, look, can I just record it and send it to you? Like, can you edit it in, or I don't know, something. And we got all that worked out. But again, it was another like hour of standing there waiting, for other people to pitch. And the producer comes on, he goes, okay, everybody's done. And what's going to happen is the screen's going to be black, and the winner is going to show on the screen. You're going to only be one person on the screen. So I'm standing there, and just like literally standing here in my bedroom waiting to hear or not hear something. And all of a sudden I see my face pop up on the screen. I'm like almost frozen with excitement. It's really hard to describe, because I'm like, I can't believe, like, I wasn't going to do it. I didn't think I could do it. Power and the internet was telling me don't do it. Finally get through, and then they tell me they didn't get my recording, still saying don't do it. And now I'm here staring at myself on this screen going, oh my God, I made it. Like, I did it. And they come on and they go through the spiel about rehash your pitch and tell you congratulations and everything. And I'm jumping up and down and crying, and David's trying not to cry. And it was amazing. The funny thing is I had to stand here for like an hour and a half after that. I couldn't go tell my family. I had to stay here because there was all this follow-up stuff we had to do. So I'm standing in my room trying to be super, super quiet. So I'm not leading them on, and they're not making noise. And then it's all over. And it felt like the longest time ever. And then when it was done, it felt like it was like 5 minutes. It was really kind of crazy. And I can tell everybody now, because, and this is kind of funny part of the story, I was so excited when I won. I must have like literally temporarily lost my mind, because I went on Instagram and blabbed to everybody. And this 20-second little video, like, I did it, I won, and I get a call from the production team going, you weren't supposed to tell anybody, because they recorded in December, right? And I think I was not in my right mind, because logically that makes sense that you shouldn't tell anybody, but I wasn't being logical at that point. It's funny now, but I was literally terrified for like 3 days that after all of that I was going to get disqualified. And that didn't happen, but it was amazing. So I won $50,000 in cash and prizes, and I got to be on global television with the one and only David Meltzer. So it's fabulous.
And they are from that was aired in January, right? January 8th.
My episode aired January 22nd.
22nd, okay.
Mm-hmm.
And that was on Bloomberg, I guess. I guess they're going to have it on. It's on Amazon Prime Video now. Is that correct?
That's another funny part. I was trying to get. None of us have access to Bloomberg TV, and we wanted to watch it, family and friends. And they had said it was going to be on Amazon Prime. And up until I think it was the day before, we couldn't find it on Amazon Prime. And apparently Amazon Prime had a glitch of their own that was going on. And I think it was Thursday afternoon or something. Finally, when you searched it, it popped up. And I'm like, look, everybody can go to Prime and watch it now. So got to do like a little watch party thing with my family. It was really cool.
So winning this, what has that done for your business?
So a lot of things. So I got to meet you first of all. I
Oh,
got
thank you so much.
well.
Appreciate that.
It's exciting to me because especially listening to a lot of the guests that you had on. Um, I never I never in a million years thought I was going to ever be on TV, right? That's not something that I really seriously thought I was ever going to do. And bam, it happened. I never really thought that I was going to be a guest. I listened to people be guests on podcasts. Like, it's not something that I thought that I was ever going to really be in a position to do. And so a lot of the prizes are business related. I got VA services for a couple of months. They're sponsor prizes, I think is what they're called. Another was I've been working with a digital marketing agency, learning how to market myself better, how to like on social media and whatnot. I've met a lot of really great people. Like, it's been fabulous. There was a lot of really cool other sponsor prizes, like pillows. Like, I can't say enough about these pillows, that they're just amazing, and they have definitely helped. I had been using them prior to that, so when I saw they were part of the prize package, I was super psyched because they're just the best pillows ever. And with pain and neck issues, like, you want a good pillow and to sleep well. And it's so 2020 was a year of surrender for me. I really took a step back in January before all this happened. Was like, I need to go back to basics, figure out what's really important to me, focus on that, and let the other stuff fall by the wayside. And I got to witness how doing that really brought all of these amazing things into my life, even while unfortunately the whole world has been going through this pandemic, right? And so winning this was a part of that. And on top of that, I'm kind of surrendering to, like, I would have never thought to work at the digital marketing agency. It wasn't something that was in my budget or that was really in my mind. I was trying to figure it out on my own, like a lot of other people do. So that's an opportunity to learn, which to me, that's stuff that I'm going to take with me and I can use over and over and over again, versus $1,000 cash, which you spend it on whatever. And, unless you invest it in yourself, it's gone. And it also gave me more confidence. And it gave me this sense of not being afraid to say yes. Like, that's, I think, that was probably the biggest thing, like, beyond the cash and prizes, which is amazing, was just saying yes to something and then figuring it out as you go. Like, you don't have to have the answers right up front. Just do the first thing. And I'm definitely one of those people who's like, I want to have everything mapped out and figured out and know where I'm going. But I'm learning I'm not going to say it's a waste of time. Like, you want to have a general idea where you're going. But plans like that don't necessarily always work out exactly how you have in mind. And then people kind of feel like that, like you were saying, is a failure because it didn't go this way, this way, this way. And I've kind of taken a step back and been like, I know where I want to go, and I'm kind of going to let the universe and my instincts and everything else kind of lead me as much as possible. So
A couple things. It sounds like a coach or a mentor is very important, right? Because that's where you got to. And the other thing is, Edison had so many quotes, right? One of them is, failure is usually people quit right before they succeed, right? They don't. For you didn't do that. You could have done that, right? You were at that point where you're like, okay, I have no internet, I have no this, no that, I'm quitting, I'm done, it's just not for me. But you didn't, and look where you're at. And that's why I think it's important to talk about people like yourself, their Edison moments, so people understand, hey, you got to keep going, right? You're going to get knocked down, but it doesn't mean you quit. They say the fight's not over. It's not when you get knocked down, it's when you don't get back up, right? And so It's important to do that. One of the people who got me here was Steve D. Sims. Somebody you should look into. They're all connected to all these other people that we've been talking about. And he's the same thing. I mean, he talks about the same thing. You don't drown by falling in the water. You drown by staying there, right? Basically.
Right.
So there's a lot of stuff that you've talked about, and it's an amazing journey. I mean, it is. I mean, and one thing I want to get into is because there's a lot of people who are thinking about starting Etsy shops, thinking about that kind of stuff. And I noticed in your bio, you did something with a pool liner.
Oh yeah, that's my big project that I'm working on right now. That's my big upcycling project.
So you took a pool liner and you're turning it into what?
So we had like an easy set pool. I don't know if you're familiar with that. Basically, fill the top with air, and then just throw the hose in, and it kind of gravity and physics and whatnot holds itself up. And for whatever reason, last year the air ring decided to go, and I was shoving recyclables in it just to get it literally through the last month because I couldn't get it to patch, just to keep the float. And finally, I was like, okay, we took it down. I was like, we'll buy a new one next year. This is again part of the pandemic was replacing that pool at that point was $1,200. That's a $200 pool. It's like, first of all, I can't justify that, and second of all, I didn't have the money to spend for another piece of plastic. But when I was taking it down, it was literally making me sick because we only had this pool for 2 years. Thinking about this massive 15 by 48 inches pool in the trash. So I was like, I'm going to cut this up into sections and see. Maybe I'm doing all this other stuff. Maybe I can run this through my sewing machine. So I'm just doing some research, took a little piece to see if it would go through my sewing machine. And I'm thinking about, have you ever seen the seat belts that they turn into like belts and backpack straps and things? I'm like, why can't I do something? This stuff holds, thousands of gallons of water. So tons and tons of weight. It's meant to be sturdy. I was like, I want to turn them into totes. So I'm working on a pattern right now for a basically indestructible tote. Like the only way you could probably destroy this thing was to be light it on fire or purposely cut it apart because the vinyl is so heavy duty. So yeah, I have lots to work with. I have lots to practice with. And I feel like because those pools are no longer, unfortunately, meant to hold up for more than a couple of years, I'm sure lots of other people are going to be throwing them out. And I'm going to be like, not unlimited resource, but a way to keep everybody else's pools and give them new life and a usable product.
Right. Well, maybe you can contact that company to put in their little thing. Hey, when you're done with your pool, please contact Bonnie Hewitt.
That is a really good idea. That's actually
instead of throwing it in the trash, please contact this company. They will recycle it for you. Right.
Yeah. Well, yeah, because the recycling companies that I know, like ours, won't take it. It goes straight in the
well, that's what I'm saying. But you can even talk to them and say, hey, you get one of these. I want it.
Exactly. Right? So, I just meant as far as recycling, like you can't even recycle them conventionally.
I got it. I was right there with you. All right. So we're on the same page. I was there quickly. Amazing story. What would you say? Because like my daughter wants to do stuff on Etsy. She kind of has these designs. Both my daughters are very creative in their own way. What would you recommend for, I don't want to say women, but people who want to do this? Would you tell them just do it, or would you tell them that? I think one of the things would be definitely find out what you want to make that's different. Right.
Yeah, I would say assess your skills. Like, what are you already good at? I was able to kind of take some of my knowledge and then apply it to what I was doing and mix it together. And that's kind of what I've been doing this whole time. Every time I buy a new piece of equipment, it's somehow related to what I'm already doing. Assess your skills and then figure out what you would be really excited to learn about if you had to learn about it. So say, your daughters are really into like gemstones and beadwork, but they don't quite yet know how to put together a piece of jewelry. So they could take something like that and kind of learn a little bit more and create a new product from it. I would definitely do a little bit of market research, but honestly, I jumped in on masks when masks was oversaturated. Like there was like a shortage, and then all of a sudden everybody was making. There was like 500,000 listings on Etsy within a month of masks. And I still did fairly well. I was also offering something slightly unique because I was using vintage materials, and then I was also making custom ones. So I don't think it's necessarily having a completely unique product. I think you need to be have your own twist on whatever it is you're making. Definitely stay away from things like Disney and all of these other trademarks. I know that sounds like common sense, but you'd be surprised how many people in the t-shirt making industry are trying to build a business on trademarked items. And have fun with it, really. Like if you're not having fun with it, not all of the time, of course, there's going to be frustrating parts. But if you're not having fun with it, try to make a tweak and a shift and see if you can't take it in a slightly different direction and kind of reignite, which is what I had to do. I had to do that a couple of times, from the beginning until now. So that's my advice. Non-technical advice anyways.
Right. Well, we look back, I was at an event with the guy I was telling you about, Steve Sims. He does a speakeasy, and he was like, how was COVID? Did COVID help you or hurt you? And I think a lot of us, it helped us. I don't want to discount all the people who got sick and passed away, but I'm just saying in general, it made us relook at our business, relook at how we're doing things, and change where we probably would have never changed before. Right. For you, let's find all these materials that are local that are being not used that I can get access to and be able to recycle and ups. And that's a totally unique business that you've done. And I mean, my hat's off to you if I could take it off, but I have headphones on. So
No, I appreciate that. I mean, where I want to go with this is much bigger than Etsy. I'm not going to, I want to basically build a company that would somewhat operate like Etsy, but all be in-house, because there are some problems over there, just as there are on other platforms, that I'm hoping that I could address by doing it in-house. And eventually what I want to do, which was part of my pitch, if you get a chance to watch it, is because I'm upcycling, I'm going to be collecting materials, collecting clothing, as I want to implement a voucher program to get clothes to kids in need. Partially because the kids need them, but also partially because I know a lot of these kids are going to school, and things don't quite fit, and things that have holes in them, they're tattered, they're worn, and they're getting bullied for it. And I really feel like as a community, it's something really easy to, and mostly inexpensive to tackle if we kind of all collaboratively work on it together. And then there's a lot of other things I want to build into that, off of that, such as the emotional resiliency program for my elementary school kids, which again helps kind of combat bullying. I know it sounds like it doesn't go together, but when you look at all of the moving parts, like I think the one thing that kind of ties all of this together is, well, I guess two, it would be creativity and community. It's really drawing, like you said, resources from different places that are being they're untapped or unused, and finding new uses for them. And as a result, being able to give back and help, starting with the kids. So
yeah, because I find out I'm in the mortgage and real estate industry, and I do another show called Real Estate Jerky, and we were talking to the recycling in our area, and they're not taking stuff. They're not even shipping it to get done because nobody wants it right now. And so there's so much out there that if somebody could figure a way to utilize it locally and reuse it, it would really help out for the local communities. Now I want to go back to your Unbreakable. Is that still going, or
it's on hold right now. What I found, I wasn't ready when I started, to be honest, but I'd started anyways. And I really found that I was attracting a lot of the people that I wanted to help, but I wasn't quite ready to help. But the people that were coming to me that still needed help were the people that kind of wanted to lead to other people. And I know that's really maybe doesn't make sense, but when you've gone through something traumatic, like I said, I've had different layers and sessions of healing. And there was other trauma that I'm not even going to talk about today, but you get to a certain level of healing, and I felt like I was ready to build this project and collect people who had gotten through these things successfully and were thriving, and put them all together in their videos on a platform. So as a resource for people who were just going through it was the idea. But what ended up happening was I was attracting all of the people kind of who weren't really ready for that part. And I felt helpless because I couldn't personally help them, kind of thing. So it's not on hold forever. It's just on hold until I feel like I can kind of listen to people's stories without absorbing their trauma myself, because I ended up getting really sick because of it, to be honest with you. So.
All right. Amazing story, amazing journey. I mean, it's challenging. I don't want, but that's what makes it amazing where you are today and what you're planning. Now, is your website Posh Notions? Is that correct?
Correct. Yeah.
So if somebody that's where you're going to start selling more of your stuff, or you currently sell all your stuff?
I'm on my website. You can buy some of it. We're trying to integrate so you can buy everything on both places, but I'm also on Etsy under Posh Notions currently. At some point, I'd like to be just on my website. But Etsy helps with the promotion and whatnot of your items. So
I get it. I mean, where you're at and while you're growing, I mean, it's, a lot of times we come up with these ideas, just like you're talking about Unbreakable, but you're not ready for it now. Well, that's okay. You got to put it out there and figure out, and eventually in a year or 6 months or something will happen and you're there. You weren't ready for where you are now. right,
Right.
with your business, and then all of a sudden, bam, bam, and there you are, right? You know, it's amazing journey, and these are the journeys I like to talk about on Inner Edison, about how, you know, you go from here to where you're building your business, which maybe is not even a business you were thinking about being in, and then all of a sudden, wham, here you are doing all this other stuff and access, and that's just being resilient. And I really appreciate you sharing your story today.
Thanks so much for having me on. I appreciate it.
Is there anything else you want to tell them before we go?
I think the only other thing would be to check out social media. I'm on YouTube. I'm sharing the interviews that I'm doing when allowed over on YouTube too. And yeah, I'm Posh Notions everywhere. So if somebody's looking for me, wants to say hi, or if they have a question about the campaign or want to have an idea to help me move the campaign along, hey, whatever. But I'm pretty open. I'm pretty open books and pretty happy to talk to whoever.
And you're on Instagram, right? You're on Instagram?
Instagram, Twitter, Facebook.
What's your Instagram handle?
Everything's Posh Notions.
Okay. So basically, if somebody, and also people out there who have access to materials that you might need, they can contact you through Instagram and let you know what they might have, right?
That's actually a really good idea. Yes, thank you.
I mean, especially if you guys have any extra pools, she'll take them now.
Yes.
Well, you never, I mean, that's just unique because I see all those people who get them during the summer. They always tear, something happens to them. They're not long term, and then they end up in the trash. It's amazing that you're actually doing something with them, and that's amazing. So
Thank you. I appreciate it. I'll let you know when I get my first prototype done.
I appreciate. All right. Yeah, please do. All right. I want to thank you for listening to Inner Edison today. And Bonnie, thank you for being here.
Oh, thank you so much. I appreciate it.